Everybody knows the situation is not pleasant.
Yeah.
What is my complaining going to do? It's not going to help me. Is it going to help you? Is it going to help them? No.
It doesn't help anybody.
No. Hi, I'm Colleen.
And I'm Chrissy.
And we are the CSisters.
On this episode, we'll be talking about Colleen's journey. So, Colleen, where did your faith start and begin?
So, my name's Colleen. My faith and journey started when I was just a little girl with my dad. We would go to church every Sunday at 7 o'clock in the morning. All five of us, because I'm the youngest of five, grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, and we were Roman Catholic. So I got involved in the church real early. Doing
kind of like
CCD.
I did.
Yeah. My mom was a CCD teacher. I was in the choir. And then as I got older, I was on the church council, and got baptized, christened, all of it. Then I went to college, and that's when I kind of diverted a little bit away.
Kind of like I did also.
Yeah, the rebellious years. We all do it. You know, we have those rebellious years where we want to see where our life's going to take us. And sometimes we forget about our faith, and, you know, what we're here for is not for us, but for him. And so I went to college, and, you know, then I had to leave because my sister, you know, had cancer. And we were going back and forth helping with my sister.
Did you live
my
close
family
to her?
I went to school 3 hours away, so I really had to come home. And I was very close with my dad. We're close family. We really are. I mean, I'm the youngest of five. I have three older brothers, and then my sister. She's the oldest, and then there's 10 years in between us. And then me, I'm the youngest. And we come from a very athletic family too. So, you know, at the time, my brother was doing minor league baseball. My brother Eddie was off, you know, doing carpentry and construction work. My brother Jack was in the Army as an Army Ranger. So military runs a big thing in my family too. My dad was Navy. And actually, it was funny because I was going down south to visit my parents during St. Patrick's Day weekend when I actually met my husband. And I was just trying to look and see if I really liked it down there. I wanted to change. You know, after September 11th and working in Boston, I really needed something new. That was a very traumatic experience, and it was very soul-searching and spiritually searching that I knew I needed a different spiritual path. I didn't know quite what it was yet, but I know that I needed to find God again and find him in my life and what he wanted me to do. And when I went down there through a snow emergency with my best friend and her boyfriend at the time, driving through a snow emergency to get to 80-degree weather in South Carolina.
I don't miss the snow in Ohio.
I don't miss the snow either. Like, I mean, I like the white fluffy stuff, but that's more in the ski slopes. That's not really on the roads. On the roads, you know, it's all yucky.
Yeah.
Which my kids don't really know a whole lot about. The kids, they've lived in the South and in Okinawa, so it was pretty...
They're not missing anything.
No. Although when we moved back from Okinawa, JR did have the snow experience because it snowed for the first time in 30 years in New Bern. So, and I'm like, of course, as soon as we get back from tropical climate, I have to buy him his first winter jacket and everything. But, you know, here or there. So I moved, I did go down to visit my parents, and I really loved it in South Carolina. I just felt pulled there. And then, you know, I'm going to pick up my mom from jury duty, and it turns out it's my husband. I bumped my chair into because she had a stranger pick her up to drive her home. And I explained to her about how that is really not good.
I've done that before. I've gotten rides to the gas station after I've ran out of gas.
Yeah. See, not a good thing, especially for a female. But my mom, she's, you know, 5'3.5", little Irish woman. feisty as all get out. But she is, I'm like, Mom, you shouldn't do that. And I was like, I can't go back home yet. I love to play pool. So we found a local pool hall. We're playing there. We heard there's live music to be played. So we went to the bar to go hear live music, and I bumped my chair into my husband. And that's how we met. But I fell in love. I turned to my girlfriend. I said, I'm going to marry that Marine.
Wow.
The first night I met him. And she actually took a picture of us that I have, like the first night we met.
That's awesome.
Which is amazing. And, you know, we knew we wanted to be with each other really quickly. So I moved down to South Carolina really quickly. And then he deployed, came back. We got married, and then he got orders to Okinawa. So here we are, newly married, first time moving completely different state, now moving to a completely different country. And our Marine life begins. It's like I always said, it's the adventures of the Allen family. So we just decided that in our marriage, it was an adventure. We were going to look at Marine Corps life as an adventure, because you can look at it two different ways. You can either look at all the setbacks and the disappointments and the stresses that you can have in military life as a military family, or we can look at it as an adventure. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going to Okinawa, Japan to go live where I probably could never afford to visit. And I'm going to make the most of it. I can still play my sports. I can still find a job there. Not so easy, but it took me 8 months to find a job. Loved my job. It was a temp job, but it took me 8 months to find that.
What were you doing there?
I was a analyst is what the term was. But
so like
top secret,
Yeah.
Can't talk about stuff. Worked at headquarters, worked with some really great people and other Marines that were just amazing. And I loved my experience. I loved getting to know them. We found a church fairly soon from when we moved there, and we started going to church. And I really felt led that I'm like, I really love this church. It's not Roman Catholic. It was a Baptist church, or a non-denominational church pretty much. But I just met such amazing sisters in Christ there, other military spouses too. And we talked a lot about spirituality and learning our purpose and understanding the difference between saved and to be baptized in Roman Catholic, and the difference of religions and stuff, which growing up, I had friends from all different walks of faith. Like my best friend's Mormon and Jewish, and there's even one that is Wicca. So I have friends from all walks of life. I love people for who they are and the time period that they are, the good
like
and the
Jesus
bad.
did.
Yeah.
We don't have,
And I didn't realize that at the time because I hadn't been saved yet, that I already was having this stuff in place. This was just my inner compass of myself. There were certain things that I would not go against. Anybody that knew me, even growing up, knew that lying was a big thing with me. I try not to hurt people, but I do not lie. And lying is a sin. I learned out later that it is one of those things that Jesus talks about in the Bible, about lying and being truthful and honest, and but also being caring and showing grace. And I did that a lot with my friends growing up, but not realizing those were, going to be the fabric of my sisterhood as I was growing on. And when I got pregnant with my son, my husband was deployed a lot. Like a lot.
That would be difficult.
It was. But before I got pregnant, I played in the softball league there and met a great bunch of girls. Now there, people don't understand. It's not just the Marine Corps that's there. It's all corps. So I had friends and fellow spouses that were Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Army. And they all lived around me too. So, I had to go through that whole earthquake, tsunami, nuclear meltdown when we were in Okinawa, and Bill was gone. And so I'm like, everybody tells you about the typhoons there. Nobody tells you about what actually, earthquakes. And it was almost an 8.0 earthquake, only 120 miles off of where I lived. And I live on an island, so you can't really go too far if a tsunami does hit.
No.
Thankfully, we're at the highest point. If it was to hit, thankfully it didn't. But I mean, that was definitely a testament and a test in our marriage, just dealing with all those adjustments. And then after having my son, I realized, he was so important in my life, in that I realized I needed to be an example to my child. So how can I expect my child to seek God in everything when I'm not? And that's when I accepted Jesus Christ in my heart and got saved. And JR was just a few weeks old. Bill was home from one of the deployments that we got baptized. Well, I got baptized in the East China Sea. So I thought it was like really symbolic, but my son, even for only being a few weeks old, to see me doing something like that, here it is, his mom showing her faith in baptism and being submerged in the ocean, just like Jesus was baptized in the river, and the symbolism with all that. So it meant a lot to me. And I got involved a lot with the church. I was singing in the choir, and we were doing Bible studies at my house, and I would have what's called Army Wives Night. So all the women, because these women came from very destitute areas, and I wanted to be kind of like evangelistical in that matter.
Leader.
Yeah. I wanted to show them. I was a little bit older. I've been through a lot more. So I know how to budget. I know how to cook. I know how to clean. I know how to put makeup on. I know how to do my hair for special balls. Budget was a big thing on such, little money. And take care of kids. This was my second go round. I raised my sister's 3 kids. And helped her during her difficult time. And now here I am with my own kid. And these women were so supportive and so helpful. And that meant a lot to me, to have that kind of sisterhood. There is a sisterhood that you have in a military community that is the only thing I can equal it to is the sisterhood in Christ, is that these people do not ask anything for you. They know your experience. They know what you're being through because they're going through it on their own. And we support each other and lift each other up and just are there sometimes just for a hug or listen or bring a bottle of wine over because it's been one of those days. And so I would do Army Wives night, because Army Wives was still running at that time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we would always laugh because we were like our, significant other that would do during military movies where they would nitpick every little thing that was wrong. We would do it with Army Wives too, but we'd have all the kids playing in front of the TV and having a grand old time. And we would socialize. And then after, I would either do like a cooking class or a budget or just talk, like have almost like a psychology class, a therapy session for everybody, just to voice their frustrations in a positive and supportive environment.
That probably helped them a lot.
It
and
did.
It probably helped some marriages and
it did.
Yeah, I feel like that's amazing.
And draw more people to being saved as well. And just knowing that I could have that impact on somebody was amazing, because I know that that's how I feel that Jesus Christ did for me and had that impact. Because as soon as I got saved, I did feel a difference. I did have trouble in my marriage, even after getting saved. Just like we talked about in your episode about the troubles with marriage, I had troubles in my marriage to the point where we almost got a divorce. I kicked him out. I was like, I am done. I am not doing this. And thankfully, with the support of his squadron and everything, we came to a really good solution. And I mean, look at us now. We're 15 years later and we're still married. And I mean, I love him more now than I've ever loved him. And I know part of that is because of our faith and both of us putting him first.
I mean, God really changes hearts, like not only like in both parties in the marriage, the husband and wife. I feel like I love my husband more also. Yeah, it's just amazing. I've heard before, like, when people want to get separated and they want to get divorced, if you think to yourself, if you could have the husband you married back, because you're always thinking about, all these terrible things that happen.
Yes.
Your marriage is falling apart. If you could have that marriage that you've always envisioned, with God involved in things, would you get a divorce? And most people's answer would be no. And God can do that. God can change people. And yeah.
Absolutely.
And he's proven that through me and you.
Absolutely. But I also feel that we are also the generation that it was a lot easier for people to walk away.
Yeah.
The older generation, they stuck out the hard times and they made it work. But yeah, there are certain situations where I do feel like, people should walk away. And sometimes it might not be forever. And everybody needs to remember that, like my marriage and my situation is specific for me and Bill, but your situation with your husband is specific for you and him. We all go through stuff. And I think that we also still are the generation that don't talk about it enough, that don't talk about the difficult times. Everybody wants to put on that face and, oh no, our what's going on in our lives needs to stay in the home, and other people don't need to know that. And I feel like sometimes if other people knew that, they actually would care more and really want to know more because they know they're not alone.
I agree with that completely, because everybody, with social media also, everyone, always sees the good. They only post the good. And so their marriage is so wonderful. All their kids are so smart, and they have everything together, and they have so much money. And you only see the good stuff. If people were more honest and more vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it would bring people together, and then they could talk about things. And, I don't know.
Well, that's why I think this is so important for us to do this too, because I want them to know through our journeys, we have completely polar opposite journeys, but God brought us together. And God can bring all of us together. Even the people listening now, we want you to understand you're not alone. Yeah. It's not something you have to hold inside of you. The good, the bad, and everything in between. We mean that. We have good, we have bad, and we have everything in between. Because
I'm very honest at sharing my ugly. I have no, I have nothing to hide.
Right. And I've gotten to the point now, this is so important to me that I've never been that fake person, but I'm definitely opening up a lot more than I've ever have before. And it is scary because you're opening yourself up to a lot of rejection too, and a lot of ridicule, and you're under the microscope now, but I'm not afraid because I have God on my side. So, when we were living in Okinawa, I literally, some people don't have these experiences. I've had more than one with God where I literally, I was to the point in our marriage, I didn't know it was going to work. I had JR in my hands. I got down on my knees and I cried out to God. And I said, God, please, please help my marriage. I want this to work. When I made those vows, I meant it, and, good and bad. And he is a good man, and he needs you. I need you. My son needs you. Please, Lord, show me some sign, some way to comfort and know that this is okay. And honestly, in that moment, I am hysterically crying, shaking, crying. I am so upset. And I literally felt God's hands wrap around me and the most calming feeling coming over me. And just know that I'm okay. It will be okay. And it did. It turned out the very next day, he came over with Top, which is the master guns, the squadron. And they were helping out. I don't know. There was something we needed to put together or something. And it worked out. It did. It worked out. It was great. Our marriage got stronger. He started going to church every Sunday with us. And so when we moved back, he was started at Cherry Point, and we got involved in the Tabernacle Church right there in New Bern, and I was helping out with the preschool. and the Sunday school. And, I got very involved in the church with the VBS. I did for years. We lived in London, Kentucky when he did recruiting duty, and we did that too. And that's actually where we had Harley, because I was like, listen, if I'm going to have another child, there's never a good time in the Marine Corps. You are never the top. I actually joke, when I was younger, in our marriage, I actually got a shirt made for us, because everybody's like, if the Marine Corps, you would be first priority if the Marine Corps issued you. So I had a t-shirt made saying that I am issued. So they would know I am issued. And so, there's never a good time. Recruiting, is really not a good time. I really feel that the Marines should be single when going through the recruiting duty, because 80% of marriages file for divorce in recruiting.
That's like my husband worked in, like I said, he was a paramedic. He worked in fire EMS. That's a big, that's I want to try to say there's high percentages of divorces. Also in police, I think I've heard that before, and I think because it's
the long hours,
same as military, long hours, traumatic things are happening. And then you're with those people going through those traumatic problems. And then you start to, if your marriage is not fireproof, as they would say,
right.
Then you start, talking to, other people and confiding in them without, and not your spouse.
And the people that you pick in regards to that can definitely be make or break if they are not fellow Christians.
The wrong people, confiding in the wrong people.
Yes.
Or the opposite sex. Yeah.
Yes. Or the devil likes to work in the handiwork in that. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Steal, kill, and destroy. Yeah. Marriage first. Absolutely. And so in Kentucky, another difficult time, he emotionally drained him. He was in charge of that duty station. And then when we moved to Lexington, he was in charge of that too. That was definitely rough on our marriage, and being involved in the church as much as I was, and pretty much dragging him kicking and screaming to church. But he was still going. So that's all that mattered to me. I was like, I just need to get him there. God will do the rest, And I still feel that way today, that, I will bring him here and God will do the rest. And God really did. And having my daughter, she, it was funny because when I got pregnant and didn't know what the sex of the baby was or everything, JR really wanted a sister, and he prayed to God for it. Aww. And he said, Mom, I'm praying to God for a little sister, specifically, not a brother, a sister. And he just touched my belly one day and he goes, I got it, Mom. God answered my prayer. And I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, I got my sister. She's in your tummy. And I was like,
you're like,
okay, we're going to find out next week anyways. And it was. And both of my kids, MacGyver babies. Let me just tell you, it took 2 nurses and a doctor to get JR to lie down at birth because he had his feet down. They've never seen it before. I had the shortest labors with both my kids. It was 2 hours with JR. It was not even an hour for Harley. And it was funny because as soon as Harley came out, she's looking around, freaked out the doctor. And I was like, yep. And
he's like, hello world.
She was. She's just looking around. And he's like, I've never seen that before in my life. And I was like, you haven't met my MacGyver babies. So literally on their medical records, it actually has a notation, MacGyver baby, on it. So they know that I don't hurt my kids, because my kids like to dive head first out into concrete, or they get hit in the head by the top of the car closing because they decided to run back at, the Flash speed back to me and get hit with the corner. My kids were very good at knocking into stuff. I mean, JR, when we were in Newbern, pretended he was a Navy SEAL off his Mater car, and Bill didn't listen to me and put the rubber edge around the fireplace, and he went head first into the fireplace and got split open his head. We're running. And this tells you something. A Marine, if it's another Marine going on something, they're fine. But a Marine taking care of the kids, they freak out. He's grabbing my white Vera Wang towels to put on his head. And he's like, well, what do I do? What do I do now? I'm like, get my shoes. Like, it's fine. I'm putting pressure on the wound. Head wounds bleed a lot. We're
They're
gonna
very
go.
vascular and they bleed a lot.
Right? And I was like, we'll get there. Don't worry. We got God on our side. And here I am just saying prayers, whispering over. He's freaking out. He's normally deployed. He doesn't deal with these things. And he's like, I don't know. I mean, he's like, just get in the car. Just get in the car. And I'm like, okay. All right, let's get in the car. And I was just like, all right, hon. Like, seriously, I was like, Matthews 22:14. For many are called, but few are chosen. And I was like, yeah, this suits him. Okay. Marines are the chosen few. I get it. Okay, God, let's just go. So we have those kind of experiences. Like I said, the adventures of the Allen family. It's never a dull moment in my house.
I feel like husbands, though, sometimes it takes them a while to, like the first time my husband stayed alone with our daughter, our oldest, Adelaide. She had a blowout and ruined the whole.
I remember that.
The whole onesie. What did he do? He didn't just take it off and have soak it or have it washed. No, he cut it off of her. He literally cut it off with scissors.
Because that's what they do in the field. That's all they know.
It's like, oh my goodness. Yeah. So it makes me laugh.
Yeah. And I mean, when Bill was trying to change JR's diapers when he was little, he had to put the gas mask on that they provide them because he couldn't do it otherwise. But I just think it's funny because, like, with little boys, he's getting changed. Of course, he pees at that time, almost hits him in the face. And now I'm dying laughing because, it's happened a million times to me already.
Yeah.
He's like, you didn't warn me. You didn't brief me on this. I was like, payback. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, you remember when you wanted me to pin you? And you told me at the last minute that I'm pinning you. And then I had your colonel leaning in saying, you pinned him upside down. Well, my dad's Navy. It is the other way around. And then I'm like, I wasn't briefed, sir. I wasn't briefed. And you thought it was so funny. So payback. And he's like, all right, that's a good one. All right. But that's the way I love our marriage. And your marriage is probably the same way. We, being a little sarcastic, just joking. You can't go through life not laughing and just finding, I always say, finding the stupidity in the situation. It really does make it a little lighter.
Makes you laugh.
It does.
Although if I'm my husband has a nickname for me. He calls me Krabby Chrissy. You wouldn't want to be joking with me when I'm Krabby Chrissy because I won't take it as a joke.
Right.
And that's pretty much when, and my middle daughter is the same way. And like if I'm hungry, like I'm hangry, or if I'm tired, Krabby Chrissy comes out. So all you got to do is feed me and give me a nap.
Right.
And I'm better.
See, Bill, that's funny you should say that because Bill's like, oh, you better watch it because you don't want the Boston to come out in her. Yeah. And I was like, no, you really don't.
And you could tell in your accent, like,
yep, it sometimes comes out. He's funny because at first people, like, every time they meet me, they're like, I don't see any Boston in you. And I was like, get me really excited, get me angry, or I have a couple of drinks in me. It'll come out. But yeah, Bill's just like, oh no. He's so funny about that. But, it was all these times and building this foundation in our marriage and everything was so important. And I didn't realize how important all these situations and these trials and tribulations that we were going through really was setting us up for some really big stuff until, let's see, it was April 2021. Like, let's get back to like currently today. Like we moved into our forever, home. But during this time, we started coming to church here at the gathering. And as soon as we came the very first time, we just both looked at each other and were like, we found our church. We love it here. I was part of the choir, and then I started singing in the band. And you, of course, my daughter, she's always next to me singing along with me. And we loved it here. We just felt like home, and we felt like we had a family. As difficult as our families are individually, we do love our family, but this feels like our family that God picked for us. Mm-hmm. So in April 2021, we got COVID for the second time. Well, I got COVID for the second time. My family got COVID for the first time. And we were okay, you know. I just lost taste the second time. I didn't spike the high fever. Like the first time was really bad. And Bill's like, oh, you just have the flu. And that was before they even knew anything was going on. I was like, no, Bill, like you can't go to work. Like I am very sick. I can't get out of bed. Like I'm throwing up. And he's like, oh, you're fine. You're fine. So I call my girlfriend, Rachel. Now we've been friends. This is the funny thing with our relationship. She is my best friend. And we have been friends probably since birth because our brothers were best friends growing up.
Oh, wow. That's kind of cool.
And then we became really close in middle school. And then we, you know, went our separate ways in college and everything. We reconnected when I was in Okinawa and she was on mainland Japan in Iwakuni. And then when we got our house here, she was our realtor here. She really wanted me to live close to her. And it was really important to us to be close to each other.
Was her husband a Marine too? Or
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. He was a Marine too. And he actually owns East Coast Consolidated.
Okay.
With the roll-offs and the trash trucks. Yeah, that's their company. They do that and landscaping. And you know, her husband, Eric, and my husband, very, very close. Our families, very close. You know, they love my family and would do anything for me, and I would do anything for them. But it was funny. She was our realtor for here. And she's come a couple of times to some of our stuff, but she came over because I was so sick. And she's like, she called Bill and she's like, no, like seriously, if this Zofran does not work for her to stop her from throwing up, we are going to have to take her to the hospital. Like, this is not good. She has 104 fever and nothing is touching it. And everything, elderberry, anything she's eating is just coming up. And I'm not a thrower-upper to begin with. So the second time I was like, this is nothing. Like I can't taste and I can't smell. But other than that, like I'm just tired. Bill had the 103 fever, but he got the shot. So he thinks that might have had something to do with it. But then I found out my dad was dying. Like he was deteriorating in health. We've visited him quite frequently because it's only 5 hours away to go down in Hilton Head to see him. And my dad was such an important part of my life. I talked to him every day. Mm-hmm. You know, he, especially spiritually, like he was my compass. Him and my grandmother always talked about having God in our lives, having a purpose, knowing that our purpose needs to coincide with his purposes, and that you are a reflection of what you say and do, not what other people say and do to you. Mm-hmm. So he always talked to me about situations that it doesn't matter what people say or do to you. It only matters how you react to it. And what you react to it says more about your character than theirs. Yeah, and I said, oh, you know, and so then I found out he had hospice come, and here I am with my family with COVID. I can't come and see him because we all have COVID. So we test and 14 days later, we tested negative, drove down there. We got down there on March 3rd to see my dad for a very, very brief moment. And he passed away the very next day.
I bet he was waiting for you.
He wasn't just waiting for me to say goodbye, even though I was not allowed to touch him and my kids were not allowed to go in there to see him just because they were worried about, you know, Jer, what was he, 11 at that time, and Harley was 6. I really wish they would have let them say goodbye, but they thought that, I don't know what it was during that time period. The nurse that was there was the one that was horrible. She told us we needed to wear masks and gloves. We couldn't touch him. We could only be there for a brief moment to say some words, and then we had to leave the room because we don't want to give him COVID. And I'm like sitting here, the guy's about to die.
Was this in a hospital or
no,
a hospice center?
In his house.
Oh.
And
I would have been... You know,
but everybody else around were not wearing masks, and they just came up from the Northeast, from Boston too. So I'm like shaking my head. I'm like, nope, Dad, I get it. It's not about them. It's about you. I said, Daddy, it's okay. You can let go now. I know you're going to a better place. And I will try to help the family understand that too. Because, my family, they're all Catholic, and that's great. You're Christian. But I feel that they don't have a complete understanding about heaven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Until you get saved, and understanding that a little bit better, that my dad would not be in pain anymore. He would be completely healed. And that was more important to me than physically having him here and being in pain the way he had been for years. And he was a cancer survivor, 3-time cancer survivor. So my sister was a 2-time cancer survivor. My dad was a 3-time cancer survivor. So it's not like cancer didn't, run in my family. I did the genetic testing and I knew about it. And so my dad died the next day because March 3rd is actually my brother Jack's birthday. And I don't think he wanted to die on his son's birthday. He waited until the next day and he passed away. And that was just
must have been
it was
a hard time.
It was a big blow to all of us because my husband was very close. My husband's the only one that my dad ever accepted in my life. My husband asked for my hand in marriage to my dad on Thanksgiving, didn't even know this was going on. And to me, that's very chivalrous. My husband's from Kentucky originally. He's very old school in some aspects, and it was very sweet and nice. And it meant a lot to my dad. He was the first man my dad ever accepted in my life. That was really good. I was really happy about that. And now he knew that he just told me even before, when he was making sense, before the Alzheimer's really kicked in and the end happened, that honey, I don't need to worry about you. I'm just worried about the others. And I said, don't worry, Daddy. God's got them. God's got me. And you've given us enough advice over the years that we will understand. What's more important is for you to go and not to worry about here anymore.
I feel like that's part of why people don't want to let go. They're so worried about their family members. You know what I mean? They're worried about their suffering, not the person dying doesn't really worry about themselves. They're worried, are they going to be able to do it?
They do in a part, but then when you get near the end, they don't. Yeah. And I mean, they worry about other people, not themselves. Because, and especially us as Christians, we understand where we're going next. And some of them might not. Some of them aren't saved. And so we pray for them and we worry about them. So that was a big blow to my family too, because my kids were very close. Like, I was the princess in my dad's eyes until my daughter was born. And I'm fine to pass that torch to my daughter, because just the way that my dad looked at my daughter and my son made me so happy. And then when my son got baptized, when we were in Lexington, my dad he couldn't make it, but I videotaped it and we were able to show him later. He was so proud. That was like one of the proudest moments. Like, for me as a parent, the proudest moment that I could have is seeing my child accepting Jesus Christ into their heart and being saved, and celebrating that through the baptism. So after, we did all of this, my dad died, we went back, tried to settle that and everything, I was kind of lost because I was a daddy's girl. I love my dad. I knew that he was going to a better place, but just, in your heart that, but when you try to understand the whole situation.
Yeah. I think it's a normal human response, and people sometimes want you to just get over it, and move on. And, it's been this long. You should be over it by now.
Yeah.
That's what I'm just imagining people would say. I've never.
Or they don't know what to say, and they're just like, I'm sorry for your loss. And you're just like, uh-huh.
Yeah.
They don't know what to say, but you don't know what to say back either. I'm crying because I miss him physically. I miss his hugs, because that's how he would, calm me down, or I miss that I can't call him anymore.
Yeah. And probably reminders of him everywhere.
Oh, all the time. Oh, he makes sure to let us know in so many ways that just because he's physically not here doesn't mean spiritually he's not. And you know, I kind of think of it this way. Would it be better of me not to ever have known and made the memories that I've made, or him to put that kind of imprint in my life of the memories, and especially our memories and faith together, that meant more to me, and that my kids had that experience. There's people that they never even got to meet their grandparents or parents or even have that kind of relationship. So I'm so thankful for that, and that God gave me the time that he did give. And so when we got back, it was just a few later, on May 20th, I fell down 20 stairs.
I fell down some stairs too in the past, but not 20.
I fell down 20 stairs, and I knew it was 20 because I felt every single one. And I've fallen down stairs before and got back up and been perfectly fine. But this was carpeted stairs. I don't know how I did this. I just fell, and I was not near the handle, like the handrail side. So I was trying to do a softball move. Totally me, if you know me. I'm trying to reach back and kind of slide into second kind of way and grab the carpet, thinking I can grab carpet, which is totally ridiculous. But here in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to stop myself. I'm going to do this. Yep. No. And that last one is when I hit that, and man, I felt that break. When they say you can feel when your bones break, it is not a lie. I felt my back break, and I screamed in pain. And I've dealt with a lot of pain before, but I screamed in pain and hit my head back, and I hit my head against a stair too. And my son and my daughter were with me. My husband's in the shower. My daughter and my son helped me over to the couch. The recliner. And then Jair's like, Harley, go run upstairs and get dad. And so go run upstairs and get dad. He comes running down, I'm like, just take the kids to school. And then when you come back, we'll go to the ER. And that was funny because we get Jair off to school begrudgingly, drop off Harley at my girlfriend's house, Rachel. And I told her what happened. And then I'm trying to tell the doctor that I was trying to when I was falling down the stairs, is like I was sliding into second and trying to grab the carpet on the stairs. And he chuckled and he's like, yeah, I knew you were an athlete at that time. But I also knew that God was with me that day too, because thankfully, I went to the orthopedic and he said it was a clean break on the sacrum, which is called the anchor bone. So it's not like Bill likes to say, I break my butt. It was not my butt. It was not my tailbone. It was the sacrum, which is the anchor bone to your hip and your back. And of course, you can't sit or lie down without that part hurting. And if it's a clean break, there's no surgery involved. So you just have to sit on a donut
and let it heal.
And let it heal.
While you're in pain.
While I'm in pain. And so I'm uncomfortable. I couldn't drive for the longest time. And as I was healing from that, I was getting my daughter ready for kindergarten. And I didn't know, God was preparing me for my biggest battle yet at this time. I was just like, God was with me. Because even the ER doctor was just like, wow, how do you not have internal bleeding, broken ribs? You only have a slight concussion. You have a rug burn on your elbow to your bone and a broken sacrum. You should have had a lot worse than that. Yeah, and I was like, well, God was with me. Mm. And he's like, you're not lying. You definitely had God with you that day. And so I'm getting Harley ready for kindergarten and preparing her for all of that. She's still not fully potty trained yet. She's fighting me tooth and nail on it. And I'm worried that my daughter's not going to be able to go to kindergarten because she can't go on the potty. Well, she finally did. And, it was just so funny. I was so happy when finding out that Lisa Godwin was going to be my daughter's teacher, because I've heard great things about her, and God placed her in my daughter's life to help me through this difficult time, or at least that's what I thought. You see, Lisa Godwin had just been through an incredible battle of breast cancer and was a survivor. Fortunately, her sister didn't survive. So in Proverbs 17:22, a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength. And she was just a glowing spirit of light in my life and in my daughter's life. And she's a fellow Christian. And I got to learn a lot about her during, the next few months. I mean, she is just a great mentor to other teachers. She's been Teacher of the Year. She now is doing the mentor program for Pender
Does she
County.
still work there, or?
She does not work in Onslow County anymore. She works in Pender County, but she works with the mentoring program and everything. So she is still discipling and to other people, and just the glow in her face truly reflects the loving, godly spirit that she has inside of her, that burning flame I talk about to so many people, about igniting that flame in others and seeing the brightness of God in people. You can see it from the start in this woman. And she was such an important part of my life during this time that I can't even thank her enough. For the impact she had in my family and my daughter, because my daughter here, I have her in therapy and Jay are in therapy for dealing with my father's death and for me getting injured and everything. And then to find out one day in November, doing a self-check, I found a lump that I've never had before. And I thought it was cancer, but I wasn't sure. So I called the doctor the next day. They see me. They confirm my suspicions and immediately get me into a mammogram. And then on November 11th, obviously this day keeps on repeating in my life. And so I always cringe on November 11th because something happens that day all the time. So on November 11th, 2021, I remember this day because of September 11th. Then they followed with an ultrasound by an amazing woman. And I'm going to try not to cry through this because this woman, the way that God puts people in your life during each time is so amazing. But was so blessed during this time with so many reminders about I'm with you. Mm-hmm. That I almost feel like not worthy. Like, what have I done to deserve you putting all these angels in my life, supporting me, reminding me, uplifting me? You put me here to do that for others, not for other people to do it to me.
Yeah.
It
is kind of amazing how that happens. And you're like, wow, thank you. Thank you, God.
Right. Like, I don't feel worthy, but I'm so very thankful. And this is what they talk about, God's love, grace, mercy, understanding, all the above. And so I didn't realize with her, I could tell on the girl's face as we were talking that it wasn't good, but God put her in my path as well. You could see she just, she talked to me. She opened up. She doesn't apparently do that with others. She opened up that her father, she just lost, and her mother was going through treatments during the time. And we cried together, we laughed together, we hugged. God wanted me there to help her not feel so alone. And a week later, I got my biopsy done, and the waiting is the worst for the results of everything. You always hold your breath, even now. Every time I hold my breath. And so I kept in contact with the technician, and she checked it up on it for me. So 2 days before Thanksgiving, my normal doctor calls me into her office, says she needs to talk to me, and sat me down, and she told me, you've got breast cancer. Specifically, I had ductal carcinoma. I was by myself. And so here I'm sitting by myself, and she's like, oh, is there anything else that I can do for you? And I'm like, seriously? You denied me a mammogram for 4 years when I normally was having a mammogram every year because of my family's history.
Because you're a sister and
I am very on top of cancer, checking yourself. And even my daughter, she's not even going through puberty yet. And I'm teaching her, and like, this is what you need to do as you start getting boobs and stuff like that. These are the things you need to check. Yeah. Nope. She told me that I was a hypochondriac and I would just have PTSD because I'm a military spouse. That's why I was denied it. And so she's sitting in front of me right now telling me I have cancer and asking me if I have any questions. The Boston did come out at me. And
I figured, because
I'm like, I have a breaking point, and
you're like,
I love Jesus, but I'm not that saved. I come from the South Side sometimes. I'm like, I can't do this. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I said, you need to get out of my face right now because you've done enough. And she's like, all right, well, I'm going to just refer you to an oncologist and we'll go from there. I'm like, fine. So I got up. Now I'm so mad, I can't even cry. I get in my car and I just sit here and I was like, okay, figures I'm alone, Dad. Of course, you'd have to be with me to get this kind of result in your own little way. I know you're with me. I know I got cancer. Okay, now I got to go home and tell my husband and my kids. And so I go home that night. I tell my husband, and the caring person that he is and the type of mentality is, first thing he did was just start researching everything he could about it. And then we didn't tell the kids that night. We go and tell him the following day. But when I told Bill, like, I did break down for a moment. I did cry. I did have a why me moment. And then he reminded me that I was a child of God. Mm-hmm. And he said, we're in this together. I'm here for you. And I was like, I've heard it so many times before, but in this instance, I actually felt it. I felt like I had a partner in crime to go and fight this battle. And I was like, all right, well, we're going to tell the kids tomorrow. We're going to sit them down. We're going to tell them. So we did. We sat them down and we told them. And then I got in touch with Lisa Godwin and I told her. And he found out, my husband was finding out all the questions for the oncologist and everything. And we were doing, he's really good at research. Like, you ever need anything to research to find like the best or something? He's so good at it.
I can tell he's real analytical and
very internal though with his feelings. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's the Marine Corps or if that's just a good old Kentucky boy or just him or all the above. So it was funny because like in my head, I constantly was feeling like my dad talking to me and telling me, it's okay to be in this moment, honey. It's okay. Sit down, be in this moment, but don't sit there too long. You need to get up and get moving. We do not have quit in our vocabulary. We do not have give up in our vocabulary. You remember whose child you are, and it's not just mine, but his up above. And I was like, that's right, Dad. Okay. I got to get up, got to move my crown, fix it right. All right. Okay, God, what is, I know you take all bad things and make it good. Mm-hmm. So is this a lesson I need to learn? Is this a lesson that other people around me need to learn? Are you using this to help others? Can you just give me a little hint here? I'm kind of swimming through these waves in these waters, and I don't know what you want me to do. Mm-hmm. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to be quiet and still, and I'm going to listen to you.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I felt too. Like, why? Like, not why did you do this to me? I wasn't blaming God, but I was like, why?
Right.
Like, why is it? I knew there was a reason that this was happening to me. Mm-hmm. That there's a reason that I have cancer now.
Right.
And now I have to kind of figure out why.
Yeah.
Like the same.
And see, like, I didn't realize that God was just like, haha, guess what? I'm doing all the above. I'm working on you. I'm working on him. I'm working on everybody around you. And so, you know, I met with the oncologist, and we put I call it a battle plan in place. And that's what people don't understand, you know, with cancers. Everybody's different. It's like you had, with the different stages.
Oh, grades, yeah.
Grades. Mm-hmm. You had the grades. I had the different stages. I was stage 3, almost stage 4 breast cancer, which is not a joke. I was triple positive, which it makes it even more difficult. 5 years ago, they didn't have quite a regimen that they needed for the type of cancer I had. And then they did a genetic testing again, because I was like, well, I don't have any cancer markers. Like, how did this happen? And he's like, let's do it again. It will be covered underneath your insurance. We need to do the genetic testing again. There's more markers we can see now. There's 13 new ones that they didn't have before. So he did, and he's like, yours is environmental. Yours isn't even genetic. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Okay. So what are we going to do? So I had to have 8 rounds of chemo and a year worth of immunotherapy. So they have to give you a port. Now, I always thought ports were supposed to be on your body itself, but they told me because mine was in my right breast that I had to have it in my arm. And I was just like, have you seen my arms? There's not a whole lot of meat there. You want to put a port there? Okay. So they put it in near my bicep, near my elbow. And I got that done. Let's see. My battle began 12/14 with my meeting on oncologist. So the full...
In 2021, right?
Yes, in 2021. And so it was stage 3, almost stage 4, ductal carcinoma breast cancer that is HER2 positive, estrogen receptor positive. That will definitely come into play later, because the HER2, you know, that was one of the newer things that they were finding out and stuff. But to find out the estrogen receptor positive, that's a problem. And so the best course of action, they said, was to do 8 rounds of chemo first to try to shrink the tumor. And then we will see the surgeon and the plastic surgeon, depending on what you want to do. If you want to do a lumpectomy, you know, a double mastectomy, a single mastectomy, reconstruction, whatnot. So I started doing, let's see.
Did you have breast cancer in both breasts, or
just one?
Oh,
just one.
Oh, you said your left.
My right.
Or your right. Oh,
yep.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I had it in my right, and it was just in the duct. So there was no metastasization at all. So they were trying to get it, and they had to be aggressive about it with the chemo. So the type of chemo treatment that I had is very aggressive, and can do a lot of damage. It can do damage to your heart. It can do, you lose your hair. You get very sick to your stomach. You can lose a lot of weight. I mean, there's a lot of different things that can happen. So my girlfriend sent me Romans 12:12. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. So in my family, we try to make a joke of all things. So I'm like, if I'm going to battle this and I'm going to do 8 rounds of chemo, I'm going to have a little fun with it. I'm like, all right, we're going to have a theme. So we're going to have a theme for each chemo treatment. So after the first chemo treatment, which I had, let's see, my first chemo treatment was on the 29th, just 3 days shy of New Year's Eve in 2021. So on the 21st, I got my port in, and then 8 days later, I had my first treatment. So the port's not even healed yet, and I'm already having treatment. That needle goes in your port, and after that first one, I was like, listen, you need to put some numbing gel or something on that, because that hurts. My first chemo treatment was 8 hours long.
That's
like people can have, I had my own room. And I had 2 nurses. Those nurses, by the way, at the Zimmer Cancer Center. They're amazing. They're like little walking angels. They're so comforting. They're so loving. They are so kind. And what I found out as going through this, they were sisters in Christ as well. And so my first treatment, you know, I'm a fairly positive person. I just try to look at the best of situations, or I joke if like I'm in pain or if I'm upset stomach or whatnot. And I was like, of course I'm nervous because I have all eyes on me, you know, something like that, just to joke about it. So we did my first treatment. I didn't have that many bad reactions. I did, after 14 days, lose all my hair. Most of my hair. It felt like a million needles stabbing me in the head. And I would literally brush my hair. And as I was brushing my hair with my hand, not even a brush, and I take my hand and there's a giant clumps of hair coming out. So we have a friend that owns a barbershop down in Jacksonville. And so we asked him if he could come over because I didn't want to go to a shop. I was so afraid of how I was going to react getting my head shaved. It is a very traumatic experience, and it affects people in all different ways. But I knew I wanted a good group of Christians around me, and they were great Christians. He came over, and we did it in my bathroom. Here he is, and we're shaving a little bit, and joking about it like, oh, you look great with a mohawk. Oh, you know, look, we're just joking about it and making fun about it. He made it so... a situation that could be so damning and so depressing. And we laughed. And the only time I cried tears of laughter because we were laughing so hard during the experience. And Rachel was there too. And my kids too. I didn't want to shy away from anything. I wanted them to see it because I didn't want them to be scared. And I wanted to keep reminding them, God's with us. God is with mommy.
Yeah, definitely.
Fear not, because I am always with you.
When I shaved my head, and I just decided one day, I was like, I look like I forget, I told you once, and I can't remember off the Lord of the Rings. I never even watched that, but I look like that.
Oh, Gollum?
Yeah, I looked like Gollum. With just a little hair in the back, and I was like, I look like Gollum. Okay, it's time to shave all this off. So I was like, I felt like I was afraid of what I would look like. Like, afraid I would look like a boy or something. I don't even know. But then I was like kind of nervous at first. And then people started complimenting me. Oh, then you look really good. And it made me feel good.
Yeah.
So then I was like, sometimes I didn't even wear like anything on my head. I just went around with, well, it was winter. So a lot of time I did. But if it would have been summer, I would have just went without anything on my head. I would just went bald headed around. But
yeah.
But it can affect people differently. Some people like have grown their hair out forever. Maybe they're different cultures that never cut their hair.
Yep, like Native Americans. See, Native Americans run on both sides of our family too, which they don't believe in cutting your hair in certain ones. And my biggest worry was, am I going to have a misshapen head?
Well, mine was misshapen because I had a surgery, but yeah, you're like, what does my head look like bald if you've never seen it before?
I've never had short hair, so I had it all shaved off, and so I have a picture of my kids rubbing my head and me laughing, and it's because my husband's like, honey, you're my wife, and I'm only supposed to say nice things to you, but you look really good bald, and I'm like, I knew he was being like serious. But I was like, thanks. I kind of needed to hear that. But I was going to wear a wig. And I even went and tried on a wig and ordered one. But my head was so hot from all the chemo treatments. And it was so itchy that I couldn't wear the wig. I had to just wear the little hats. So I would do that. And so every time that I would go, I get a new person. And all through this time, I'm there for probably about 5 hours each time. So I have to eat while I'm there. So I have such an amazing group of family and friends. All the people from my town that I grew up in, they heard about my story. They sent me enough Grubhub's money that I would get enough for me to eat a whole meal while I'm there and get a second one for somebody else. And that was my plan. I said, you know what? I'm doing this. I'm going to make it a journey. So every time I went into my appointment, I asked my nurse, I said, do not tell them that I am the one doing this, but I would like you to go around and look and see if it is a staff member or a patient that is having a bad day. And you give this meal to them and let them know that God loves them. And I did. And actually, one of the times it was one of the nurses that got it, and she was having a really, really bad day. And I could hear her crying. And I was just like, oh man, I hope it really helped. But I didn't want them to know it was me, because I didn't want them to see me in it. I wanted them to see God in it. And so every time that I would sit, I had my Bible. And with the type of cancer I had, one of the side effects that was so lovely is everybody was giving me like cards and books and stuff like that. And I can't read because I have double vision the whole time. So I'm listening to the Bible because I was like, devil, not today. I am going to listen to the Bible because I can't read it. So you still can't win. So you might as well just stop. You can attack me all you want. It's not going to work. Not today. Not going to happen. Satan. Yeah, not today, Satan. Not today.
I have a shirt that I actually wore yesterday that says, nope, not today. It doesn't say Satan on it, but it says, nope, not today. It's like, nope.
Actually, my daughter wants one of the shirts I have, because I love the saying shirts. That's like a thing with me. I have one that says, I'm not the perfect Christian. I'm just the one that knows I need Jesus. So
we all.
Yeah. So I would do that. I would listen into the Bible, and I would never be able to get through a chapter because I would start talking to the person next to me, and it would always be about Jesus Christ and God and the Bible. And they're like, oh, what you doing? We would talk. I would find things that we have in common, and I would tell them about my experiences and give a little bit of a testimony with them and listen to them. And, maybe answer certain things like, oh, well, did you not see God in that? Like, because there was the sun shining down on you, right? That's God reminding you. And they're like, oh, I never even thought of it that way. And there'd be people that were requested to sit next to me because of us having these kinds of conversations. And the nurses all loved me because I was always positive, and I was always trying to get, whoever's next to me to stay positive. Because in that situation, it can't be positive. It is miserable for everybody involved. Like, there are people that are doing treatments that feel miserable, that might act miserable to the nurses. And then the nurses are working those long hours, having people be miserable to them too, or having to deal with, how they can decompartmentalize of some of these people that they know might not make it. But they're still there smiling and being there. And then you have the service animals coming by and loving up on you and everything too, which is amazing. And so, I did, after the third time, it was March. And I was like, all right, what am I going to do for this? I'm like, of course, going to let the Boston girl come out. We love St. Patrick's Day. So I wear my shirt that says, who's your Patty? And in for my treatment, celebrating, I had, one of them was a Red Sox Day because I'm a big Red Sox fan. And we just had themes going along. So that was
get the nurses involved too?
Yes.
You're like, dress up for this.
Oh yeah. They loved it. They were like, all right, what's the theme for this time? They would look, actually nurses would come over while they're like, oh, Colleen's here. They would come over just to see what the theme was. And they would actually tell other people, and like other patients would be like, oh, that's such a great idea. And so when I went to ring the bell for my last treatment, we were still having to wear masks. Now, mind you, this is all during COVID and everything too. My husband can't come into the room with me. The last two chemo treatments, he finally could come and sit next to me during the treatments. So mind you, he's with me. He has to drive me. And for 5 hours, he has to sit in the car waiting for me because he can't come in because of stupid COVID protocols that we all know don't make sense.
Yeah.
And they made sense at the time. Everybody was trying to figure it out. I get it. I love that they were trying to keep us safe because we're immune compromised and everything. And we're trying to be as safe as possibly can. But I think the COVID thing was definitely getting me, especially when my oncologist did not like the fact that I wouldn't get the COVID shot. I'm like, listen, I talked to 5 different doctors and they told me not to. that I had enough going through my system at the time. I said, we can revisit it after I do my treatments. But as of right now, like, I'm just trying to survive these treatments that could possibly kill me. Like, no. And I stuck by my guns. I prayed about it. I asked God for his direction in everything. And it was the first time in my life I actually sought God in every decision I made. And so my dad always said, too much is given, much is required of. And he was not kidding in this. Like, to have all this up until this point, I was just, okay, now I see why I had to go through all that. Hindsight 2020 kind of thing.
Exactly. Yep.
So I went through, my last treatment was April 13th, 2022. And my doctor, I did 6 echoes. The treatment that I did is supposed to cause heart damage. Now, I was a former smoker way before. I quit smoking I quit smoking after I got COVID the first time. I just quit. I was like, I can't smoke. I'm not going to go back to it. I've been wanting to quit. I've been quitting off and on.
Yeah, it was a good reason to just end it.
Yeah. I mean, like, I haven't smoked in over 2 weeks. Why would I go back to start when I wanted to quit in the first place anyways? Who would have thought that COVID would be the thing that finally gets me to stop? Because my husband already stopped. He quit cold turkey. He's good like that. He can quit cold turkey on stuff that he's addicted to, whether it's that or because he was like a 2-pack a day smoker, Reds.
Oh, wow.
And then he went on to Mountain Dews and realizing way too Mountain Dews. So he stopped that. And then he started on Coke recently and finally stopped drinking Coke because I'm like, a 12-pack a day is not good. You see, they use it to like dissolve like the stuff around carburetors and batteries.
I always wanted to try that.
Or clean toilets. It does work. It bubbles. Yeah, I've done it before. But you can clean toilets. Imagine what it's doing in your insides. I'm like, seriously. So on April 13th, I got to ring the bell, because that's like one of the things that you do when your last chemo treatment. You ring the bell. So I rang it. But I told Bill I wanted him to ring it with me. And he's like, why? And I said, because when we started this journey, you said it. We are in this together. So we are celebrating together. And I was so thankful because every single person in my path, my surgeon and my plastic surgeon, I decided to have a double mastectomy reconstruction done, but I couldn't do that until after I had my 1 year of immunotherapy. So I had to finish that. So we were naming the years. So this 2022 was the year of the overcomer. That's what me and the kids decided. It's the year of the overcomer. We watched the movie The Overcomer. This is what we're going to do. The year of the overcomer. We're going to do this together. We're a team. And everything I kept on saying, we're a team. We're a team God, Yay, let's do this. And they were like, you never once complained. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? Complain about what? Everybody knows the situation is not pleasant. Yeah. What is my complaining going to do? It's not going to help me. Is it going to help you? Is it going to help them? No.
It doesn't help anybody.
No, but laughing at it, at the ridiculous of it, the ridiculous of how the devil just tries to attack. And it's like, yeah, you haven't learned yet, have you? Well, God just put me in your path to realize again, you're not winning.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. Not with us. We have been saved. God has saved us.
I just tell...
No givesy backsies. Sorry.
No, I just think to myself, or say out loud, devil, get behind me or get away. Like just go away today. Don't even bother.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of cool because like when we lived in New Bern, my husband was like very, really starting to understand his faith and reaffirm his faith. We have a contract he signed, and it's being the godly man of the house. I have it framed. I have it up on the wall so everybody can see. But it was very important for me. You know how they talk about, it was hard for me to understand at first about being subservient to your husband in regards to our faith and stuff like that. So I really dug deep in regards to it. And I was like, being subservient is not like in a way that I was thinking with my
No.
husband.
I feel like there's a lot of feminism going, or feminist or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, we should be proud of our feminism. But I feel like it's, there's a lot of people that criticize women who, want to respect their husband.
Right.
And want to like
You value your opinion.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's like, I explained it to my daughter, because my daughter's like, well, Mom, you always said like, I need to be a strong woman. I said, being a strong woman is knowing when to say things and when to do things. God made women of Adam's rib because he didn't want him to be above him, below him, in front of him, or behind him. He wanted to be beside him. We work together. Mm-hmm. And that's why when you get married, it becomes one. You do become one. And I truly believed in that in this whole situation. Here I am, my daughter's in school. She has a good Christian teacher helping her along the way, helping me along the way. And she's able to tell her testimony to me, which I know healed her in a little way too. And you can see God's hand in everything. Like God, placed her in my daughter's life right at the perfect moment. Who could have done that but God? Mm-hmm. Here I am, dealing with, you think of the situations that I've been through, dealing with my dad's death, falling downstairs, breaking your back, and then getting cancer, all in the same year.
Yeah.
Just those individually can really throw a person. But man, the devil was really coming for me hard. He really was.
He was like,
He's like, I gotta come at her with everything because she is so strong in her faith. And that's what I'm proud of the whole experience that I've had, is I did stay strong, and I did not quit, and I did not listen to the devil. And it was really hard. I'm not going to lie. It is hard. It is hard on a daily basis for every one of us. Now, after getting all the cancer treatment, they did say, okay, we did the echo. There is no damage. You should have damage, and there's none. It is a miracle. We can't even find the cancer. So you can have a lumpectomy if you want. And I said, no, I made the decision. I'm doing the double mastectomy and reconstruction. It's all in one. It's a new type of procedure that they did with Dr. K and Dr. Bebb, and both good Christian men. I'm so thankful to have them in my life, and I would recommend them to anybody.
Those were your oncologists?
Those were my surgeon and plastic surgeon.
Oh, okay.
My oncologist, the best oncologist in the state for breast cancer, bedside manner is lacking a lot, but he knows his stuff. So I was just like, that's why I told my husband, I'm like, he knows his stuff. His bedside manner stinks, but he knows his stuff. I'm going to stick with him. Because it is my life that depends on it. And do I want the best? Yes. Am I going to have to deal with the personality quirks? Fine. Don't we all in life? Okay. Mm-hmm. Not a big deal. I prayed about it. I prayed for him, and God, softened his heart a little bit with me. He tried every single appointment to try and get me to do that COVID shot. And he kept on warning me I was going to get COVID and I was going to get COVID. And he finally has given that up and realized I did not through all of this. Mm. And I think that was God's way of softening his heart and making him realize that, you know what? No.
Yeah.
And everybody else has their own journey in regards to that. Some people it benefit, some people it didn't. And that's everybody's decision. And I think that's where a lot of the adversity that we forget as Christians, that it's okay to voice your opinion, but if you do it in a Jesus way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like my dad would say, is it better to be nice or right or kind? And I was like, okay, I get it now. You get it when you get older. And so they prayed over me before my surgery. It was a outpatient surgery. Both of them worked on me. It was about 8 hours they worked on me. He took 3 lymph nodes just to be on the safe side to test it. They couldn't find even remnants of the cancer where the cancer was. That's how much God's miracle was on my life. They couldn't even find anything. So we did it. And now my healing, I have healed better than anybody they've ever seen. doing that. And then Dr. Bebb, I do the checklist after. All right, so I got breast cancer. So now I need to check skin cancer with a dermatologist. I need to go to see a cardiologist to make sure, because I have a tachycardia. I don't have a resting heart rate. Don't have to take medication for it, but I have low blood pressure because of it. And sometimes it's weird because I'm an athlete. And I only found this out because of being an athlete, working and playing in the minor leagues for baseball when I was younger. That's how I found out I had it to begin with. And looking at me, you'd never even think I was an athlete the way I was. And so I had to be careful about that. If I get lightheaded, I got to sit down right away. I mean, being with your nursing background. So I was being careful. So went to the dermatologist, and here I go to the dermatologist. They check my skin. And so there was a spot on my arm that looked like a blister since chemo. And I was just getting it checked out really because of that. Because I was just like, that's not normal. It's not healing normal. It's never happened on my skin because I'm very protective because of cancer running in my family. Melanoma was one of them for my dad. And it's because of not wearing sunscreen. So all my life, I'm wearing sunscreen all the time. I mean, I'm freckled. I got the Irish in me too. So you got to be careful. Well, come to find out, I found it's about this big. So like cannonball size. All right. So that was on my chest, just near where I just had surgery. Not even where on the side of the breast that had the cancer, but on the other side. And that spot that I had, cannonball size again, on my arm, both was cancer. Luckily, that was the type of cancer that was easily to remove. And so I trust my plastic surgeon. So I was like, nope, you're not doing it, dermatologist. I like you, but I don't like you that much. And you're not a Christian. And you're not giving me a good case or talking to me in a way that making me feel comfortable, because you just thought you could just drop, just have this type of cancer. It's not a big deal. It's fine. You'll be fine.
You're like, I knew someone better.
Well, I'm just like, okay, so here I am finding out I have cancer again. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because, God got to do it twice because he had to be doubly sure. That's what we always say when we were joking about it. He had to be doubly sure, so you had to get it twice. So I had it's a minor thing that people get when they get older. So they cut it out. But since it was such a big thing, I wanted to not have a whole lot of scars. Since I already have so many scars already, I look like I've just been in battle in Sparta or something with the number of scars I have already. I was like, I'm becoming a bionic woman, for crying out loud. So he did it. And I mean, the scars, you can't even tell. Like, he did such an amazing job. I love Dr. K's, and he made me laugh I'm like, you're cutting my chest, but you're making me laugh at the same time. Like, this is possible. My husband's holding my hand. He could be in the room while he was doing it, which made me feel a lot better. They made me feel completely comfortable in any decision I did, and they prayed with me along the way. And you can't say that with a whole lot of doctors these days.
No.
That it meant so much more because it was God reminding me along the way again and again, I'm with you. I'm here for you. And so,
my oncology nurse practitioner prayed with me when I was in the hospital, when they consulted oncology. Yeah, she came around and she was like, "Can I pray with you?" And I was like, "Wow, a doctor praying with me, asking to pray with me." I'm like, or she wasn't a doctor. I'm sorry, nurse practitioner. I'm like, that just like kind of amazed me. But I was like, yeah, you can, absolutely.
But that feels good, like having those kind of people in your life and stuff. So like me, Bill got me a Bible, a new Bible. It's not like I didn't have one before, but he got me a new one because I wanted one that, the CRV or CSV, Christian Standard Version. Yeah, CSV. But he got me this beautiful cover for my anniversary. And it has my favorite Bible verse on it. And it seems fitting to say it now because it's the Philippians 4:13, which a lot of people know. I can do everything through him who gives me strength. And it was so evident at this point. Wow. I can, I have, and I will continue. And so it's funny that we're doing this today because I'm literally recovering from a complete hysterectomy, which was the next thing. I went to the OBGYN. He said, oh, well, we should only do a partial, which my surgeon, Dr. Bebb, suggested too, but my oncologist was dead against it. He's like, I'm even putting a note in here. You shouldn't have that done unless you're doing the medication afterwards. And I was like, no, I'm listening to God. God's telling me that you need to do this. You need to do this. So went to the OBGYN. He did the ultrasound. He's like, you got 2 cysts on your ovaries. I think you're right. I think you do need to do a complete and total. So like, that's everything. And I'm so happy he did because it turned out to be 2 tumors. Thankfully, they were benign, but he's like, you did the right thing. Because my sister, she had uterine and ovarian cancer as 2. She also had stomach cancer, was her 3rd one.
Okay.
That woman, if I can say having supportive, amazing women in my life, I would have to say, my mom and my sister definitely overcome so many adversities in their life. It is very important to have that in your life. And my sister, seeing her going through all that, and we did surprise her when we were in Okinawa. JR was only 9 months old. We flew 48 hours and surprised her and walked in.
Wow.
And this was during her most difficult time. She just had what I just had recently done. And she was having really bad side effects from it. And they didn't know if she was going to live or die. And so we surprised her. And I surprised her with my son. And she goes, that was the turning point for me. And I was like, well, here we are being God's servant, listening to God's direction, because who really can say they want to fly all the way from Okinawa, literally halfway across the world to Boston, Massachusetts, just to surprise my sister? She had no clue we were coming. And we went.
It's a good surprise.
She said it's the one that actually helped her survive because she was giving up at that point. And I feel it was just us listening to God's message. If there's one thing that I've learned through all of this testimony that I'm doing and that I've done, is that miracles can happen and prayers can get answered. If you seek first Him in all things and pray about it, and pray intentionally, not just generically. And that's what you learn in your journey, in your walk, in your faith, and that having sisters in Christ is important, because there are days that you're just not, it's just not your day. That you would have a sister in Christ just to remind you how special you are, and just sometimes just listen to you, because sometimes we just need to talk. It's not gossiping. It's not, bad mouthing. It's your feelings in a supported and comforting environment to give you an honest answer of someone else walking in your faith, So, yeah, your journey, your walk, it's become more intentional for me. I see things differently now. I look at people differently now. I am not as quick to anger anymore like I used to. I'm still a work in progress. Don't get me wrong.
Me too. But I feel like well, this house doesn't have to be super clean today, and the laundry can wait. Because I used to be like a complete neat freak or whatever. But then after nursing school, that went downhill. And now it's even more like, I'm like, whatever.
I've gotten to that point too.
Like the dog, our puppy has, he got into the bathroom trash, and there's a toilet paper roll all ripped up on the floor, and I'm like, well, I'll get it later, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, it'll be there. Like you said, some things just
are not that important anymore.
Yeah, not that important anymore.
You see colors you haven't seen before. You see people in a different light you haven't seen before. And for my children, I've done what I've wanted to do, and I've wanted to show them about being resilient in the eye of the storm. And just because you hear the word cancer does not mean it's a death sentence. Even in both of our aspects, we've beat the odds. me and you should not be here today in any other normal setting had God not been involved.
Yeah, I agree.
And the way he put us together, you know, you never think from our different walks of life, but I love the friendship that we're building together and the support I feel from you and just being able to talk to you about stuff. And that's why I was so happy we could do something like this too, because I feel your information and your input and your insight and mine together, we might be able to help somebody else, you know? I just feel that
if it's just a couple people that, you know, even if it's just one person, I always think to myself, it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like the end hasn't come, because God's waiting for that one sheep.
Mm-hmm. That's how I feel too. But like, God's not going to take me until, you know, maybe there's some person out there that hasn't heard of him or is going through something and they just really need him.
But think, people walk through their lives not even knowing what God's purpose is for them, but he is showing up and showing out in our lives so much more, you know? Because I mean, I went from the year of the overcomer to praying it forward when you met me and being able to step out and tell my testimony at the women's conference, which is the scariest thing I've ever done, because I know people know that I love to talk individually, but talking in front of people, extremely scary for me. Extremely scary. And to be able to know that I had that kind of impact on people just humbles me completely. And then to feel the direction that God wanted us to do this. And he literally said to me, only with you. Only with you. I prayed about it over and over again. I'm like, are you sure? Like,
God has a sense of humor.
He does. He does. Well, so you know what's kind of funny about that is, so God gave me the type of cancer of the one color I absolutely hate, pink. And my sister jokes, she goes, well, you know, I'm one up on you. I got almost half the rainbow. And so we always joke, because like, God's not going to take us yet. He needs somebody to laugh at. He needs somebody to lighten the mood sometimes. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe we're here to lighten the mood for some other people and understand that, you know, life is so hard for every one of us. Maybe if you just took it a little less hard and understand it doesn't have to be that serious all the time, that maybe it'd be a lot more enjoyable in the journey.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I feel like there's always something to smile about.
In my life, you've seen it firsthand. There's never a dull moment. Even my animals in my house, because all my animals are rescues. But you see in my house, I mean, you have the cat attacking the dog to fight and play. I mean, you don't normally see that in houses. Or you see like just the cat coming down and just like doing typical Tigger or Tucker stuff. And yes, my dog is named Fenway. You know, Fenway's funny. She's a therapy dog. She goes up to people. She knows people's feelings. Amazing how God puts animals in our lives too to heal. And that's why I love that they walk around with those dogs during the chemo treatments and stuff like that. Because you really can see the effect from a person's face being, you know, gray and drawn from doing these treatments and just down. You could just see their soul, their flame is so small. And you see that dog come around and all of a sudden that light gets ignited. It's amazing.
Yeah. I feel like I love those service dogs.
I do too.
Well, you always run up to them and be like, I want to pet you.
Yes. They're adorable. So next time on the CSisters, we'll be talking about what we wish we knew before. So come hear more on our podcast on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube.
And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Don't forget, even in the roughest waters, we know who calms the waves.
We will see you next time on
The CSisters.